The baby monitor crackled to life, and I heard my own voice whispering, "I'm under the bed." I was house-sitting for my aunt, in her isolated smart home, deep in the redwood forests of Northern California. She'd left on a 2-week cruise, and I, a broke grad student, agreed to watch the place for some cash and solitude to finish my thesis. The house was all glass and sleek wood, perched on a hillside with no neighbors in sight, accessible by a single gravel road that felt longer every time I drove it. The key selling point for my aunt was the state-of-the-art smart system: lights, locks, thermostat, even the coffee maker, all controlled by an app or voice commands. I thought it was cool, until it wasn't. The first night was quiet, just the sound of wind in the massive trees. The second night, the patio lights flickered on at 2 a.m., flooding the deck with a harsh white glow. Nervous, I figured it was a motion sensor triggered by a deer or something. I used the app to turn them off. 5 minutes later, they blazed on again. This time, I went to the living room window and peered out. Nothing but the dark shapes of redwoods against a starry sky. As I turned away, the smart speaker in the kitchen, which I hadn't used, softly began playing a lullaby. Not just any lullaby. It was Rockabye Baby, the version from an old music box my grandmother had. A chill went through me. I unplugged the speaker. The next afternoon, I was working at the dining table when the front door's electronic lock beeped, and I heard the bolt slide open. I froze, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I walked over and found the door slightly ajar. The app on my phone showed the door was still listed as locked. I manually locked it, thinking it was a glitch. An hour later, the thermostat, which I'd set to a comfortable 70 degrees, suddenly jumped to 85. The house began to heat up rapidly. I overrode it on the wall panel, but it clicked back up almost immediately. I pulled out my phone to use the app, but the Wi-Fi, which had been perfectly fine, was now unavailable. A little message in the corner said, "Network password incorrect." That's when the real silence began. The usual hum of the refrigerator stopped. All the digital clocks on the appliances went dark. The house was suddenly profoundly offline. I tried my cell phone, no service, which was expected out here, but I usually had one bar near the east window. Nothing. A deep primal part of me whispered that I was not just alone. I was disconnected. I decided to do a full walkthrough of the house, room by room, something I should have done when I arrived. It was a modern open floor plan, but there were 3 bedrooms and my aunt's office. Everything seemed normal, meticulously clean. Then, in the primary bedroom, where I was sleeping, I noticed a small, almost imperceptible gap in the ceiling trim near the corner. Upon closer inspection, it wasn't a gap but a tiny lens, no bigger than a pencil eraser. A camera. My breath hitched. I covered it with a piece of tape, my hands shaking. Night fell. I had locked all the doors manually, double-checked every window. I armed myself with a heavy fireplace poker and decided to spend the night on the couch in the living room, where I could see both the front door and the hallway. I must have dozed off, because the sound woke me, a soft rhythmic scratching coming from the hallway wall. Not from a door, but from inside the wall itself. Panic. Then, from the bedroom down the hall, where I'd found the camera, came the distinct mechanical sound of the baby monitor turning on. My aunt had one on the nightstand, a leftover from when my cousin visited years ago. I never plugged it in, but now its little green power light was visible from the hallway, casting a faint glow. And then my own voice, recorded from some unknown time, whispered that terrifying sentence through the static. I didn't think. I ran to the bedroom door and slammed it shut, jamming a chair under the handle. My heart was pounding in my ears, whispering I needed to get out. I grabbed my car keys from the kitchen counter and rushed to the front door. It wouldn't open. The manual deadbolt, which I had definitely turned, was now locked from the outside. The keyhole was on the exterior side only. I was trapped. I tried the sliding glass door to the deck. Locked. The kitchen door to the garage. Locked. Every window was sealed shut with modern, key-operated locks. The house had become a prison. A new sound started. A faint, metallic tapping like a finger on a vent. It seemed to move through the ceiling vents, traveling from the bedroom area toward the living room. Then, a voice came through the heating vent near the floor. It wasn't mine this time. It was a flat, synthesized voice, the kind from a text-to-speech program. "Stay," it said. "We're not finished." Furious, I shouted, "Who are you? What do you want?" No answer. Just the faint sound of breathing through the vent, amplified and hollow. I remembered there was a landline phone in my aunt's office, an old corded model she kept for emergencies. I sprinted down the hall, the tapping sound following me through the vents overhead. The office door was closed. I turned the knob. It was locked. This door had a simple interior lock, and it was engaged. From the other side, something was in there. I backed away, towards the living room. That's when I saw the shadow. It was cast on the wall at the end of the hallway, thrown by the nightlight in the bathroom. The shadow was of a person, tall and thin, standing perfectly still. But there was no one in the hallway to cast it. The shadow then raised an arm, pointing directly at me. I broke. I ran to the large living room window, the one with the best view. I didn't care about the cost or the alarm. I picked up a solid ceramic vase from a side table and hurled it with all my strength. The glass shattered with an incredible crash. Cold night air rushed in. I didn't hesitate. I climbed through, cutting my palm on a shard, and stumbled onto the deck. I ran to my car, fumbling with the keys. The engine roared to life. As I peeled down the gravel driveway, my headlights swept across the front of the house. In an upstairs window, the one to my aunt's office, a figure stood silhouetted against the light of a computer monitor. It was just watching me go. I drove until I hit a gas station with a payphone 30 minutes away. The police met me back at the house. They found the smart home system had been hacked. A secondary, hidden network was operating within the house, controlled from a laptop they discovered in a crawlspace access panel in the office closet, a space I never knew existed. The panel was behind a large bookshelf. Inside, they found a sleeping bag, empty food wrappers, and several external hard drives. The hard drives were filled with weeks of archived video and audio from every room, including footage of me sleeping, working, talking on the phone. The most recent files were time-stamped for that very night. They also found a device that could mimic the electronic signals for the door locks. The intruder was gone, presumably escaping into the woods before the police arrived. They never caught him. My aunt was horrified. The police theorized it was a sophisticated stalker who had targeted the house specifically for its isolation and technology, possibly watching for weeks before I even arrived. They changed all the codes, installed a security system, but I never went back. I finished my thesis in a crowded library, where I could always see people around me. Anxious, the violation was absolute. He wasn't just in the house, he was in the routines of the house, in the lights and the locks and the very air I breathed. He made the home itself his weapon. Sometimes when my own smartphone behaves oddly, a random app opening, a volume change I didn't make, that cold fear returns. He's out there, and he knows how to make the walls talk. And that's where the story